Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop. Today we're cutting dovetails, and I want to see which is faster, cutting out the waste with a saw or cutting with a chisel. Ooh, let's start the debate. I've got a set of pins I'm about to cut out to match some tails. Don't worry about this last one. I'm actually doing an odd test with this one, so it's kind of a backward tail. But we have 4 segments here that are all the exact same, all in the wood, and I want to see which is faster. I'm going to cut 2 of them by coping them out and then chiseling down the line, and I'm going to cut 2 of them by just chiseling them out. Which one's faster, which one's more fun, and what is the difference? So I'm going to cut these 2 with just the chisel and these 2 with the coping saw. And to keep it fair, I'm going to leave the board loose, and I will set the timer and then lock it down with the holdfasts and then go to town on it. We'll see how long it takes to finish these all up, take the holdfasts off, and I'll hit stop then. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So while I go to town down there, I'm going to kind of talk through some of the things. I prefer to use a turning saw rather than a coping saw. It is faster, it's got a longer stroke into it, and you can actually do it out. And if I want to make it fair, a turning saw is really the way to go. It just does phenomenal work to munch through it very, very quickly. If you're using a coping saw, it's going to be a little bit slower, but it's basically the same principle. When using a coping saw, the blade thickness of this is often very similar or even slightly fatter than I would have with the dovetail saw. So it kind of takes a little bit more work to get down in there. And then when you actually want to turn it, you have to be, well, kind of careful with it. Otherwise, you're going to run into issues. And you don't want to go past that line. Once you get it going, it actually runs pretty smoothly. But a turning saw is less accurate than a normal saw, so you want to stay a little ways away from the line because you don't want to hit that line at all. Then once we're through, now we just have to remove this excess that we have here. Not that much. At this point, we still have to do the same work of coming in and chiseling, but it's going to be a little less because we're close to the line already. Once we've finished one side, then we can take it off, flip it over, and do the other side. 6 minutes and 12 seconds. So let's see how the turning saw does. For the turning saw, I'm going to start it outside of the vise, and we'll get going there. Now, when I transition from sawing to chopping, I'm going to pause this because I'm going to reposition the camera so you can get a better close look on it. But other than that, we're going to go to town much the same. So let's see what happens. The nice thing with chiseling is you start here and you end here. You don't go from one to the other. So there's some savings flipping back and forth, but you're going to be removing more material with the chisel. So I want to see how long it will take for me to cut 2 of these with the chisel and 2 of these with the coping saw. I actually wonder how I'm doing down there. I'll have to see in a little bit. So let's look at the finish quality on it. These 2 are all with the chisel, and these 2 are with coping saw. There's a little bit of difference, not a huge amount. I got a little bit cleaner here, but it's pretty similar. That's about average what I would find with either of them. So in the end, you're not going to get a huge quality difference because the last thing is going to be the chisel coming down and cleaning out the surface. All of these are perfectly usable, perfectly functional, and really nice dovetail pins. 3 minutes and 55 seconds. A little bit different. For the verdict, which one is faster? Well, coping saw, especially with a good coping saw, is much, much faster. Now, interestingly enough, I did this exact same test when I first got started with hand tools, and I found the chisel to actually be significantly faster than the coping saw. But at that time, I was using a cheap coping saw with a standard blade. The turning saw really makes a big difference. Having a full stroke on there, as well as a saw that is far more flexible and bendable, this really makes a big difference and makes it a lot faster. Coping saws tend to be a little bit slower. Unless you get a really, really good one, it kind of comes down to the blade quality you have. The other big difference in the past is my skill wasn't there. My skill with a coping saw was atrocious. It was very, very slow and very painful. Whereas with a chisel, most monkeys can put a chisel on a line and pound it. It's relatively easy. There isn't a crazy amount of skill in it. Yeah, keeping it vertical does help speed it up, but you're going to have that same problem with both methods. So the skill involved with a chisel isn't quite as important. Whereas with the skill with a coping saw or turning saw, that's very important. With that being said, we have to talk about one other issue. Which one do you find more enjoyable? The whole purpose of the shop is to have fun. It's not to produce dovetails. It's not to make furniture. It's not to complete things. It's to have fun. Enjoy the process. Unless you are in it for the money, you're in it for the enjoyment. So which method do you find more fun? Honestly, I used to hate using a coping saw. They were painful, they were annoying. However, with a good turning saw, I enjoy it more. That being said, I really enjoy chisel work. That chopping in and paring out and chopping in, I find that fun. Popping out big pieces of wood is very fun to me, and I enjoy the chisel work. So I think I have a little bit more fun with the just chisel method. However, now that I've gotten the skill with a good turning saw, I do find this to be very similar amount of fun because I can get through this quickly and I still get the chisel work. I don't get the big pieces popping off, but I still get the chisel work. So which method am I going to use going forward? After doing my test a few years ago, I found that I really liked using the chisel. It was far more fun than the old coping saw. I could do it faster, it was efficient. That was the way to go for me. However, now that my skill has improved and I have better tools, honestly, at this moment, I'm about 50-50. I really like blowing out big pieces with the chisel, but this is faster and more efficient. So I guess I have to go on a case-by-case basis. If I'm in a time crunch and I need to get a project out for a video, then I'm definitely going to be grabbing the coping saw and going at it. But if I'm going to zen out in the shop and just lay back and enjoy my time, I'm probably going to stick with just chopping out with the chisel. Another thing to think about is what wood am I using? Here I'm actually using white oak. This is a pretty dense wood, it's very stringy, it's difficult to work with. And in that case, the coping saw is going to be much faster. But if I was working with something that was much easier to chop into, then the chisel alone might be faster. With the white oak, it took 4 sessions from each side to go all the way through. Whereas if I did something like poplar, it would only be 2 from either side, and so this would be considerably faster. But so would the coping saw be faster as well. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. As to which one I'm going to use in the future, the answer is yes. I like both methods, and I love to try new things because at different times I want to try and play with different things. That's what makes the sport so much fun. There is no right way to do it. You can always experiment, play around, and see what is enjoyable for you. So I'd love to see other people try this and see what do you find. Do you find one is obviously faster than the other? Do you find one is more enjoyable to the other? Which one do you like? And it's kind of one of those interesting things because some people absolutely love one and some people absolutely love the other, and that's okay. We're all different. I know really high-end woodworkers who do it professionally and the coping saw is what they use. And I also know others that stay away from it entirely. Paul Sellers, for one, just chops out with a chisel. So there is no best way to do it. However, there might be a best way for you. So I'd love to hear from you. What way works better for you? Have you tried it? What were your results? What did you find out when you actually compared the two time-wise? I would love to hear that. Please throw those in the comments down below. I learn a lot from that, and thank you. That means more than I can say. Anytime someone puts a comment down there, I do learn from it, and it does help the channel grow, as well as hitting the like, share, subscribing, and the thank you button. Thank you. That means way more than I can say. As well as there are a whole bunch of names over here. Those are all the fantastic, wonderful, benevolent, and gorgeous people over on Patreon. Because without patrons, we wouldn't exist. Between patrons and members here on the channel, people who have clicked that join button, you guys are the ones who keep us going. Thank you. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here, the lights wouldn't be on, and Wood by Wright wouldn't exist. If you'd like to find out more about that, there's links to that down below, and I think they'll do it for now. Until next time, have a wonderful day. If you find that life is getting in the way and you're just getting chiseled, it's okay. We can cope with that.